Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And just a couple of things I'll remind you about. First of all, nutrition and immune function is next week, May 9th. This is going to be a boot camp style class one time. I'm going to talk about immune function. Like, most people don't even know how their body's immune function or immune system works. And I think people feel a lot more confident in their health once they have more information about that. And then we'll talk about diet and exercise and lifestyle habits and how they impact immune function. And we'll take a look at some interesting supplements and which ones do and don't make a difference. So if you want to participate in that boot camp, now's the time to register. It is limited because I'm doing it through Zoom, so there are only so many people you can have in these Zoom sessions that make sense. So I would say register now if you're intending to do it. And you can just call our office at 614-841-7700. Tonight, we are having the first in a long time of our free dinners. We used to do them all the time. We're going to be back to doing them once a month. So you can't make a reservation to tonight, but we will be doing another one in June and then July. So look at our online calendar. You ought to look at it anyway, because we do so many interesting things here. And then last but not least, it's a month until summer semester starts, which means that now is the time to start talking about if you are going to do some professional development training with us because you want to leave institutional medicine, you want to set up your own practice or whatever. So feel free to send me an email at pamhopper@msn.com. I'll set up a one-on-one appointment, send you some information to look at, and try to provide as much guidance as I can if you're trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, all right? So today I want to talk about depression, and the reason is because there's no question that during these last couple of challenging years, the incidence of depression has increased. I don't think that's shocking. In fact, today about 1 in 5 adults in the United States currently has some kind of psychological issue. I refuse to call this mental illness, by the way. I just won't go there. I don't think it's that. I mean, people who are psychologically distressed often have good reasons for being that way. And I don't like mental illness. In fact, a book I'll recommend, it's kind of a tough read, but it's worth plowing through. It's called The Myth of Mental Illness by Tom Saz, and that's spelled S-Z-A-S-Z, I believe. Older book, like 50, 60 years old, but worth reading. Anyway, the most common psychological issue is depression. And additionally, people who have one or more chronic physical conditions have an increased risk of major depression. And then depression can cause physical issues because of the increased likelihood of adopting unhealthy eating behaviors like inactivity, overeating, or eating a bad diet, smoking, alcohol, too much alcohol, that kind of thing. Well, typically, both depression and other psychological conditions are treated with drugs. And then people who have physical illness are treated with drugs, like if you have diabetes or hypertension. And then if you have both of them, you get more drugs. And more drugs is not, sometimes more is better, not really in the case of drugs. Well, a recent longitudinal study included all non-institutionalized adults in the United States who had depression documented in their medical files. Data from the United States Medical Expenditures Panel Survey, or MEPS, was used, and during the duration of the study, which ran from 2005 to 2016, there were an average of 17.47 million adults diagnosed with depression each year. Now, I have to believe that by 2020-21, it's infinitely higher, right? A whole lot higher. About 57.6% of these people were prescribed antidepressant medications. Most were from middle and high income households. Insured people were more likely to be treated with antidepressants than uninsured people. And I remember an old friend of mine who was a doctor used to say all the time, in the beginning I thought she was crazy, but I'm kind of understanding why she said it. She'd say, if you ever have any kind of medical issue, tell them that you have no insurance and they won't do very much to you, and that's the best thing ever. Well, anyway, kind of shows through here, more likely to get antidepressants if the person's insured. The purpose of the study, and this is the most important point, was to look at the effect of treating depression with drugs. Like, is this a good or a bad idea? Well, I think some of you know what I'm going to say, but this is a fairly recent study with a large cohort. And here's what they determined. The patients taking antidepressant drugs were no better off in terms of physical or mental health than the patients who weren't medicated. And the researchers basically said at the end of the article, future research should not focus just on drugging people. It should also look at other things like behavioral therapy, psychotherapy, social support sessions, education, that sort of thing, right? What they didn't say anything about, and this is, I think, the thing that we need to make much more clear to people before they go down the path of taking these drugs, is that antidepressants don't improve mental or physical or health, but they also have significant side effects. So it isn't just, well, it didn't work. It's that there are really terrible things that can go wrong. The side effects include things like anxiety, confusion, hallucinations, sleep disorders, hypomania, mania, amnesia, nightmares, aggression, psychosis, impaired concentration, agitation, and negative personality changes. Another, and this is perhaps the most devastating, is the increased risk of suicide. Data from clinical trials conducted by Eli Lilly, the maker of Prozac, showed that patients taking the drug were 12 times more likely to attempt suicide than patients taking older drugs or a placebo. So the best option, I mean, if you've been struggling for the last 2 years, and a lot of people have been, the first thing is improve your physical health. I mean, let's face it, it is hard to feel great about life when you are not eating well, you're dehydrated, you're sedentary, and your health is in poor shape. I mean, if I have a weekend of not eating well, I don't feel so good, right? So let alone if it was the way I lived all the time. And then the other thing is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the best ways, best forms of therapy available. And we have a wonderful psychologist / instructor here, Kylie Warba. Many of you have taken classes from her. She's going to be introducing another set of classes and boot camps and that sort of thing. So I'll announce those in this setting here. And she's also going to be teaching a psychology course over the summer through our school. And so back to summer semester, which is what I talked about at the beginning. So strongly consider, if you're not depressed, it's a good idea to take some of these classes because it keeps your mental health in great shape. I always enjoy listening to Kylie's lectures and the things that she writes and talks about for that reason. And of course, if you do have some of these issues, it's a wonderful way to address them in a constructive way. So anyway, and we do have a consumer course called How and Why to Withdraw from Psychiatric Drugs. It's an online self-study course, but if you've gotten into the trap of taking the drugs and have decided that maybe you want to do something about it, this is a course designed to prepare you to do it. I mean, you really do need a lot of education in order to go down that path. So anyway, tough situation the last couple of years. And I think it's really important to recognize when you're in a little bit of trouble and do something constructive about it. And drugging isn't the most, it's not only not the best idea, it's a terrible idea. So other options are available. All right, that's all for today. And as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. And I will be back to you tomorrow with more news.